Hey, hello, this is Sean Dorff from the podcast Thrive, Not Survive After Child Abuse. Yeah, we're episode 30. Yesterday, yeah, you could be actually, to be very honest, I just recorded it just a few minutes ago. But, it's give away the shirt, right? So you might think, like, why is this guy wearing the same shirt? Well, that's only if you see this on YouTube or on Facebook. Then actually nowadays you can also see my podcast, right? But if you just like to listen, which is actually the basic intent of a podcast, that is perfectly fine, obviously, as well, right? Anyhow, yesterday I was talking about a lady called Jamie Kern Lima, and she sold her makeup brand for $1.2 billion cash to L'Oreal. Yeah, I mean, I had to look a little bit for the names here again. It's always a little bit meme, right? I have to warm up a little bit to what I'm going to say, and then typically I can't stop. But anyhow, so it was not about that. It's just to say something about where this beautiful lady is coming from. And beautiful, I mean that in every sense of the word in this case. I mean, but mostly and foremostly about the way she approaches life and how she now also approaches business. She had to overcome quite a bit of ordeals, and she definitely had to believe in something that other people couldn't see until she made it real, right? And that's a little bit the ongoing topic over the last 3 episodes, including this one, is that visionaries actually typically see things already before other people can see them. So in my case, I already saw my book, Broken Silence, already come into the world, and I absolutely believed that it would be a best-selling book, and it happened to be so. But a lot of people, of course, they were skeptic. Right? And then we went through a couple of things that Jamie said to us. But I ended up with, things like yesterday. I ended up with people often say, I'm going to prove them wrong. So the people who did not believe in that I would publish a book and that it would become a best-selling book. I mean, I had never had the urge to prove them wrong. Actually, Jamie said the same thing. She wanted to prove to the people who believed in her that they were right, that she earned their trust, and that trust was given for good reasons, because she actually proved that they were right. And if you think about it like that, if you think about that, this is maybe the way you want to approach your customers, is that you say, like, I wanna prove to my clients, I wanna prove to my customers that they are right, or to my friends that they are right, because that's basically the same thing, right? Family, of course, too, but family you get, right? That's just a given, right? I was born and my siblings were already there. I mean, maybe they didn't want me, but that was not their choice, right? But friends, a friendship you have to earn, right? And if someone gives you their friendship, so my best friend, he lives in the Netherlands, my best male friend, I have a best female friend too, by the way, she lives here in the United States as well, and very soon we go on a trip. I tell you maybe a lot about that later on, but that's a whole different thing, right? But this guy, I will not mention his name, but if you're listening, then you know me well, you know exactly who it is. One day, years ago, he actually wrote me a note that he accepted my friendship as being his best friend. I was totally honored, of course, but I tried to prove him right in his choice for me being his best friend, right? I'm not sure if I'm doing a good job here. I always say I wire every week $2.50 to you, so to be your best friend, because otherwise I have no friends. But that's like a joke, right? Anyhow, that is maybe through that joke you can remember that we were talking here about proving people right. I want to continue in what Jamie Kern Lima was telling us in that conference that I was attending, and how that affected me, and how I could relate actually to practically everything she said. That's kind of the funny thing sometimes when you hear people say, right? So the next point she was going into when she landed on that 1.2 billion dollars, and then she also became the CEO of L'Oreal, which was the first female CEO. Within 2 years, she doubled the revenue there. And so she probably would have, if she wanted, she could have stayed on for years and years and years. And maybe she does. I don't know exactly what her timeline is. But this is at least what she said publicly. She wrote a book, which is going to be published, I think, in February or something. And she felt very strongly that she had to leave her old dream, which was making this fantastic makeup line. She has to leave that behind and give that over to someone else. And she wants to go more in coaching people. Her whole journey, so to speak, from bringing that product alive, making it, finding people who support her, and finally just then sell it to L'Oreal, and managing it so far that it actually also did very well for L'Oreal, brought her also to the point that she had to leave her dream behind. Now I see that slightly different. I think, if you start with a dream, I'll tell you a little bit what my dream is, what my vision is, what I want to do. Sometimes through life and through working through that dream, your vision starts to either, kind of go a little bit like this, or it maybe widens, right? Because it's the baggage that you take with you. There was a time in my life that I hopped from here to there, so I had never the leverage from the other things that I did to make, so I kind of had to restart over again. And I always said jokingly, I'm really good at beginning. I'm just not so good at ending stuff. I'm really good at beginning, right? But if you kind of connect everything, if you know that, things that I talked about yesterday, let me say, so for instance, if you had setbacks, you sometimes want to say, okay, let's put that behind me. And from a mental point of view, you don't want to stay in it, but you learn from the experience, and you take the experience with you, and so you build, your dream goes bigger and bigger. And so that is not, I'm not saying that what she said is wrong. That's probably how she meant it. But my dream is definitely to make a big dent in the numbers of sexual abuse victims that we currently have around the world, which, let me repeat that. It's always good to do that. We have about 600,000 new sexual abuse cases. I mean that is only by registration. Can you imagine what the real number is in Europe and in the United States alone? Right? I always stay with that number because it's a nice round number. The number goes actually, unfortunately, still up and up. And I did that. And when I started to do that, and when I started to say that, formulate that for myself, I actually did not even know how. How do you stop specifically in the child abuse? How can you stop other people for doing that to young children? We don't know the people. There's no sign or something. Like if you say, hey, I want to stop let's say bank robbers. Okay, you can enforce the safes and put all kind of cameras in, and you can bring the criminality there down. If you want to say, hey, I want to make the road safer, now you may put traffic lights in there and maybe more cops on the street, whatever it takes to make it more safe, you can do that. In this case, that what I try to do, and not alone, by the way, guys, is to bring the number of child abuse victims down. I did not really know how to do that. I came up with 3 pillars that I think we need to do, and I'm still want to do those, right? Or let me repeat those, and then I go back to Jamie Kern-Lima's story, right? So there are 3 focus areas that I always concentrate on, whether it's in my non-profit organization, which is called A Dancers Movement to Stop Sexual Abuse, or whether it's through Schandorf Coaching. So it is support and coach victims. That is most of my area in the Schandorf Coachings area. But then the A Dancers Movement, who is managed actually by someone else, but I'm the founder of it, obviously, because it's based on this book. It's raising awareness in society, so we do that. And we want to educate and empower women, also men, but specifically men to step up, right? And so that's my focus, and it probably will stay still the focus. But there is also, that was only to reveal to me quite recently. There's also something maybe a little bit more metaphysical. If that's not your thing, that's fine, right? I mean, I totally understand. Not everyone has to be the same. But I believe in this metaphysical thing. If we can make some sort of a movement where people start to tell their stories, right? If we can create that movement, that would be really good. First of all, actually for abuse victims, specifically child abuse victims, it is really hard to tell their stories, right? And they get triggered by it, they get emotional, or they shut down. It's all in this area of the throat. And if you do something with chakras, and it's your throat chakra that is hugely affected by it. The other chakras are affected by it too, but the throat chakra is very affected when we actually tapped into that story. Now, I always say, you can read that also in my book, I always say, you need to be able to tell your story, but you cannot become your story. If you become your story, you will be held back by the past, which happens a lot, and what most of the time results in forms of depression, right? And because of that, you can also get very nervous for the future, because you don't know how to handle the future. Whom can you trust if you are so violated in your trust by close family members, which is 80 to 90% of all child abuse cases is by close family members or friends. So people that at least I believe I could trust, and they violated that trust. So how do you know that you can trust the next person? How do you can you trust yourself? Because you made a judgment mistake, even if it was only me when I was 7 years old. But that's a little bit how that internal voice in your head sometimes go. Does that make sense? So just to be able to tell your story, and there is not just some tips in there. There's a really strong framework in here that I use in my coaching, in which I guide people through 5 steps in how to do that. If you haven't picked up the book yet, I would strongly advise you to do it. And very soon, by the way, you can get it for free. I'll tell you already right now. In 2 weeks' time, I give my book away for free, and because we just want to help more people. That's how simple it is, right? And so if you want to wait for that, that's fine. If you just already want to have it for free, just send me a message, and I'll make sure that you get a book. If you take care of the shipping and handling, I already took care of the printing and the writing, so you get that book for free. But so that's the point, right? It's the storytelling that's important. But what I did not know, let me go back to that point that I was trying to make, and that the expansion of the dream. In me talking about it last Saturday, I suddenly felt this strong thing that once people tell their story, they release an amount of energy. And it made me free. I felt free again, right? I felt free because I can tell that my abuser had little or no more hold on me, because I exposed him. I protected him. I protected the wrong person by not telling, what was going on in my life. So by releasing that energy, I just was able to step forward as hopefully as a better. Doesn't mean that I never make mistakes, by the way, guys. But hopefully it's a better person. Now, can you imagine if that happens on a larger scale, right? If the movement that we started could do that, right? That happens on a larger scale. It's not only an effect that I have. I mean, I wrote my book. I do what I'm doing right now. So hopefully I have an effect on more people with my podcast, even if it's only like 5 or 10 people, But if everyone doing 5 or 10 people, can you imagine, the impact that we could have by helping other people to tell their story? Or if you have a story yourself, and we all have a story, by the way, if you could do that, right? So, you see, my dream became only bigger. My dream became bigger. And that was Jamie Lee. That was, I want to say Jamie Lee Curtis, but Jamie Kern Lima. Sounds a little bit like it, right? Jamie Kern Lima was talking about too, right? So sometimes you need to let go of your old dreams or just expand your dreams. Like, so sometimes our mind is just not ready to conceive the bigger plan that's in store for you, right? Our mind is not ready to conceive the bigger plan that's in store for you, right? So then ask the question. That's what Jamie says. Are you all that you are? We can never answer that question with yes, right? We can say yes for the moment I am, but you never know how this thing that you're doing is pushing you forward and to take on a larger responsibility in the world to serve other people. And as we always say, you know, you need to serve people at the highest possible level. Now, my level of how to serve people, it could have been better maybe 10 years ago. I don't know about that, but I know for sure that I don't do it on the level that I'm doing it today. Does that make sense? Right? So, literally, this is what I wrote down. I'm just reading it because I truly believe this, right? It's just not your thing, that's fine. You know, listen to me again tomorrow and you have maybe a thing that speaks more to you. But I truly believe that I'm here to become who God made me capable to be, not to compete with someone else. So let me say that again. I am here to become who God made me capable to be, not to compete with someone else. And here is the beautiful thing: whether you believe God as a guy sitting on a throne with a white beard, or more like more like a contextual thing, more like a you know, maybe it's more like a give it a name, right? You know, maybe you want to say universe here, or whatever you believe in. You know, maybe you just say, hey, I have that inside. But God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called, right? So you don't have to be ready. That's basically what it says. You will get ready for what you need to do the moment you feel that voice in you that you have to step up. I mean, I never felt ready to do that. I never wrote a book before. So how would I possibly think that I'm ready to write a book, right? I don't know. First of all, I also wrote it in English, and my native language is Dutch. So I don't know what was I thinking? Why would I immediately write it in English, right? Why not translate it? I don't know. I mean, it just happened, right? So let me say that again. God doesn't call the qualified. You don't have to be qualified to listen to his call, right? He will qualify you when he has called you, right? So that is what you need to do, right? So if you believe that, you know, if the biggest thing that you can do is to believe in yourself, then that's what you should do. It can be done. Others have done it too, right? So if you feel that calling in you, then please listen to it. Just start walking, right? You know, to climb a staircase, it starts with the first step, right? To start a journey, it starts with the first step. You don't have to know exactly how you will end that journey. There's no fun in that either anyhow, by the way. So your gut, you know, down here is sometimes really good. You know, but just you need to have the faith, in this case, faith, it doesn't have to be a religious faith, that you can step in the full power that you are. And then trust me on this, you probably don't even know what your full power is. That's the beauty of it. I didn't know that. Most of the people that I speak lately, they didn't know that. They didn't know what their full power is. But they had a trust that there is power in them that they will be using and step forward, right? A few days ago, I did you know, kind of a spoof on, well, it was very serious, by the way, it's not so much of a spoof, but Tony Robbins wrote a book, right, Awaken the Giant Within, and I said Awaken the Hulk Within You, right? And so in that sense, it was a little bit of a spoof, but it was equally serious and almost along the same lines, right? There is tremendous power in you that we don't even know. We cannot even begin to understand how big that power is. So don't even try. Just start doing it, and you will have that power, right? I hope you don't turn green and become hugely ugly as the Hulk, but I hope you just stay the same as you are, right? So your setbacks in life, they almost always, if you think about the worst periods in your life, they always taught you a strong lesson, right? And most of the time you came out much better than you were before, right? That's basically what it is, and that's the way how I would like you to look at it, right? And so that's that. That was it for today, right? Is tap in your power, right? And think about it like this, right? God doesn't call the qualified; He qualifies the called. And think about it that you are also here to become who God made you capable of to be, and not to compete with someone else, because you're always uniquely you. And if you still feel that you are competing, in whatever you do, you might not fully have clarity of what your dream is, because once you have that feeling of competition goes away. And I can definitely do another talk on that there are areas in my life where I wanted to play in, but I constantly was bumping my head to this wall of competition, thinking that someone else is better and feeling very proud that I was better than the other person. That's not really a good place to be. If you once you step in something that that's where you can give your service. And if other people's are also served by the same thing because of someone else, that's great, right? I am for 100% sure that me by myself cannot help all the abuse victims that are out there. So I need to have people who do more or less the same. Maybe do it in their way, but I do it in my way, right? So that's maybe a good ending. Do it in your way. I do it in my way. Tomorrow we'll go more into this journey that we are going into. Make from your mess your message, right? That has been another theme that is recurring through this podcast. All right, this was Shah from Shandorf. No, not from Shah. Well, it is Shandorf, but this was Shah from the podcast Thrive, Not Survive After Child Abuse. All right, like to hear tomorrow again. Bye bye.